This is David Andrew Wiebe Podcast, episode number 2 for August 4th, 2009. Hi, I'm David Andrew Wiebe, and I'd like to thank you for tuning in. In the last episode, I talked a little bit about Project 365 and what that entailed. Today, I'd like to talk more about recent developments in my music. Now, some of you may be aware that I have a website called Arctic Sunburn. You can find it at www.arcticsunburn.com. That's ARCTIC sunburn.com. I will also put a link in the show notes, which you can find at daw-music.com. Arctic Sunburn is all about video games and movies, and I have several dozen reviews posted on the site. Recently, I decided to venture out and started making video content for the site as well. For my videos, I adopted an alternate persona known as Adorable Andrew. I decided that this Adorable Andrew needed a musical theme of his own, so I wrote a NES-Inspired theme, simply titled the Adorable Andrew theme. Originally, it was just a MIDI composition, but I decided to mess around with it in FL Studio. This is the first time I've really done anything with FL Studio, so my ability to use the program is somewhat suspect. But here it is, the Adorable Andrew theme. Thanks again for tuning in to the David Andrew Wiebe Podcast. You just heard the Adorable Andrew theme, which I wrote earlier this summer. One of my major influences for this track was the music from Mega Man. I feel like Mega Man had some of the best music of any game in the NES age. What are some of your favorites? Feel free to send me an email and let me know. You can reach me at david@davidandrewwiebe.com. And now it's time for another studio tip of the day. Well, actually, it's more like tip of the month, since this podcast only comes out once a month. But in any case, here's another tip for guitarists and bassists. Before recording tracks in the studio, I would advise getting your guitar set up by a professional. Get the intonation checked and have new strings put on. If at all possible, get the same tech to handle all of your instruments at once to ensure consistency between them. I tend to play both bass and guitar in the studio, so it's really important for the instruments to be in tune with each other. I have had to go back and re-record several tracks simply because one of the instruments wasn't in tune. Always keep a tuner handy, and remember to get your instruments set up a couple times a year. This is all the more important if you live in a part of the world where the weather tends to change a lot. I live in Calgary and the weather goes from really cold to really hot, so I find it helpful to get my instruments set up a few times a year. And now we're coming to the close of another episode, but feel free to send me feedback to david@davidandrewwiebe.com. Thanks for listening. You've been listening to the David Andrew Wiebe Podcast, broadcasting from Calgary, Alberta.